Welcome back to a brand new Civ 6. Some might even deduce it to be a Civilization 6 video. Back at it, part 2 with the tier list, 2 to 3 days after I said it would come out. So, yeah. But I did do a Presidents Playing Civ 6 video, so go check that out, I guess. And today we're just going to be finishing every leader on this tier list. I've already done most of them. If you look over here, we're starting with Latoro, and it's already a little bit over half. I'm going to try to go a little quicker than last video, so I don't spend another hour just rambling a bunch, drying my mouth. See, even now I'm just mispronouncing easy words, but yeah, the only thing I am going to say is that I am looking for an editor right now. Not for this channel. I want to focus more on editing this channel. It's for my second channel. I'll leave the link down below in the pinned comment if you want to check it out. But again, it's going to be like kind of in that style, and I guess I'm only going to be hiring people, of course, who have editing experience. It's much more about increasing the quality of the video than saving time, but hey, you know what? You want to shoot your shot, shoot your shot. So again, email me. I'll leave the email again down below in the pinned comment, although you could probably find it on the about page of my channel. And if you do want to be the editor, just send in some of your work so I can see, and then make sure you actually want to do the job. So check out the second channel, at least a couple of videos. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the actual tier list, starting off with Latoro. Now, Latoro's a little bit of a strange leader, all right? He has absolutely no drip whatsoever. He's got that Unga Bunga 5000 BCE drip, all right? This is before humans even discovered what wheat was. But his abilities are probably S tier on a, what's it called, Dramatic Ages game mode. Like the second the enemy civs start losing 5-6 free cities, you sweep that out, boom, just like that, 10 free cities. 10 combat strength and fighting free cities is good. And Tokui's really good because, especially in the Dramatic Ages, if you get a few free cities, governors will give you, I think, 15% culture and production in cities that aren't founded by you towards all units trained in the city. These numbers are tripled in cities not founded by the Mapuche. Chimaimal's an absolutely dogshit unique tile improvement. 1 production and culture equal to 3/4 of the tile's appeal. Wow, maybe I can use that as some sort of fucking toilet paper if we run out in the next pandemic, because it's not going to be used for anything else. It's absolute dogshit. Tourism after researching flight could be nice if you like spam this improvement on all your unique tiles, or all your tiles, then you won't have anything to eat, and unless you're going for a communist economy, I don't really think that's the best idea. The Malone Rider's also pretty strong. It's a Renaissance era unit. It gets a bonus when defending, so maybe you could like take a free city, declare war on someone, and then use it to wipe out their military while near your borders, and it's also really good at pillaging. Overall, again, like I said, it would definitely be a, oh lord, he coming if it was a Dramatic Ages game mode. Every other game mode, I think it would probably be somewhere in the baby don't come home, the kids don't miss you tier. I think he's better than Coupe. I think his abilities are a lot more valuable because, again, they also count for civs in a golden age, and on the higher difficulties, that's going to be almost every civ at, you know, a certain point in the game. So overall, if it isn't a golden age, he'd definitely be prostate examiner tier, but I think I'm going to put him right under Katarja overall in the baby don't come home, the kids don't miss you tier. Next civ's gonna be Mansa Musa. My goodness, this civ is probably one of the best on a desert map. Trade routes gain 1 gold for every flat desert tile in your city, 1 trade capacity every time you enter a golden age. Song of Jelly allows you to actually eat sand or something. I'm not really familiar with Malian cuisine, but that's what it seems like from his unique ability. 1 food and faith for every adjacent desert tile. Mine received less production and more gold, and the Suguba allows you to buy pretty much everything with gold as well as faith. Now, the thing about Mali, and this also goes for the other Mali we'll talk about, early game, especially on the higher difficulties, is when you, in my opinion, at least with my strategies, is when you do want to, I guess, you know, make sure you set yourself out to be set up your economy, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people, you know, shit on me for my scout take. I absolutely hate scouts. I'd rather give myself a prostate exam using my fist, of course, but the reason for that is fairly simple. I want to get military units out so no one declares war on me, and then I want to settle settlers everywhere just to make sure I have at least 10 cities by turn 100, which is, from what I found, a 99% chance you're going to win if you do get 10 cities by turn 100, or 12 cities by turn 120, or even 12 by turn 150, to be honest with you. So that's really my priority in the early game. And the thing with Mali is you have to wait till like the classical era with markets until you can actually start producing things, because again, you have no production whatsoever. whatsoever. You're going to be using gold and faith for everything, and unless you're going to go astrology and go for a holy site, you know, not even for a religion, just to get faith, that's going to slow down the early game a little bit. So in the early game, he's definitely one of the worst civs. The thing is, mid to late game, especially with your Monte Carlo cavalry, your insane amount of traders, the amount of gold and faith you'll be making, he's definitely going to be in the lot he come in tier if you do get yourself a really good start. And again, if you're good at the game, he's probably going to be S tier just because of the fact you know how to, I guess, dodge certain starts, if that makes sense. You know how to avoid early wars, make sure that you don't need that lube by your bedside to be inserted into your butthole. So overall, I'm probably going to put him right at the top of the baby don't come home tier. Again, if you know what you're doing for the most part, he'll definitely be higher. If you don't know what you're doing, he's probably tell my family I love them tier, although still better than Chinese Kublai Khan. Next civ is going to be Hungary. I have no idea what to say about Hungary. If you do the Heroes and Legends game mode with Hungary, it's a wrap. You get Himiko, it's god fucking damn it, you might overtake subways with the quality of your rap. It's just Raven King allows you to levy units, extra movement speed, combat strength, and much cheaper to upgrade. If you get a city-state allied early game, not only are you going to get envoys when you levy the units so the enemy AI won't be able to steal it, but you also have essentially supercharged units, especially with Himiko. Pearl of the Danube allows you a pretty sizable production bonus, and you could really get it on most cities as long as you settle them near a river. Thermal Bath is pretty good, of course, production and amenities. The Hussar is a really good unit. Well, not the Hussar, actually. The Black Army is a really good unit, excuse me. It replaces the Courser and gets adjacency for every levied unit, which isn't too hard. The Hussar is a little harder because unless you're going to wait until the Hussar comes out, you're probably not going to get too many alliances, although I could definitely see it being better than Black Army in some situations. Overall, Hungary is going to be going in the prostate examiner tier. I think he's a little worse than Gorgo, but better than Persia in my opinion. Menelik is next. You pretty much have the, what's it called? I think it's called the Secret Societies. The one with the cult or whatever. The guy that looks like the Hermit the Frog meme was trying to convince you to do something evil. It's pretty much that, except it's going to be on cities with hills and takes away the gold bonus. If you combine that with Void Singers, that's what it's called, then you'll get like 25% science, culture from your faith, which is huge, especially considering you have Aksumite Legacy for trade routes giving you faith, and the Rock-Hewn Church giving you just an insane amount of faith. They are definitely one of the stronger civs. All you have to do is settle on hills. You'll be able to defend yourself with 4 extra combats. It's just really damn strong. Just settle on hills, get a butt ton of faith. You can win whatever victory type you want. I think I'm going to put him in the Lud He Comin' tier, probably ahead of Amenator, I think, just because it's so damn easy to just get his ability, just settle on hills, and you have a combat strength bonus against hills, so that's really good for the early game defense. Just a really, really strong civ overall. Montezuma's next, and coming from other civs that have quite literally paragraphs talking about them, especially the new ones, Montezuma doesn't have that much. Luxury resources give you an extra amenity for 2 cities and 1 combat strength for every unit. Legend of the Five Sons is pretty good. Eagle Warrior are very strong in the early game, and the Lakchula, not too bad. 2 amenities, culture, faith, and a great general point, as well as some tourism. Again, you're probably not going to be going for culture as Montezuma, but that's definitely a strategy you can do. The only problem I have with Montezuma is you're going to need luxuries, right? And if you get 4 luxuries every continent, that's really only going to be at max, you know, maybe a 4 to 8 attack combat bonus if you're able to settle in between continents and get lucky with luxury resource placement. And, you know, you might be like, oh, but if you have 5 continents in a game, that's up to 20 combat strength. That's disgusting. In fact, I'd rather watch 2 Girls, 1 Cup. And to that, I'd say, okay, if you have 4 continents under your control, the game's already over. Yeah, you know, that's at least 20 to 30 cities. It's just a win harder button, I guess. I really don't think you're going to need any more help after you get about 2 continents under your control. You get 3, then it's pretty much diminishing returns, I guess. So overall, I don't think it's as good as a lot of people say it is. The Legend of the Five Sons is really good, but after the Eagle Warrior, you're going to be running out of builders, and the other thing is you are going to have to declare war in the early game, and if you are playing on higher difficulties, it does become a little bit more difficult thanks to the AI's combat bonus. Again, it's not really the hardest thing in the world. Declare war on some city-states, a civ or 2, kill their units, capture their units, get your units promoted, make sure they don't die. You'll be able to get a huge amount of builders to charge your economy, prevent enemies' AIs from like sending settlers towards you because you can just capture them, and you'll be able to make a peace deal for a huge amount of resources after you pillage everything. The thing with Montezuma is you don't really want to go to war, I guess. You don't want to conquer cities in the early game because it's not that you don't want to, it's that it's going to be hard to. If you just immediately go and beeline cities, you might capture one or two, but you're going to lose them to loyalty, as well as the fact that the AI is just going to start spamming out units. Early game, they are going to have an advantage, and if you are just spamming out the Eagle Warriors, then the problem is you're going to be neglecting other parts of your economy. So the best thing to do is to declare war on some nearby civs and city-states, take their builders, pillage, get peace deals, and then use that to charge your economy up for a boost in the mid to late game. And overall, that's a really good strategy. I don't want to do a video where I just declare war but don't take any cities as Montezuma. Let me know if you do want me to talk about that. Overall, I'll probably put him in the prostate examiner tier at the lower end though, just because of the fact his abilities, I'm actually going to put him above Herald. Again, him and Mansa Musa could be in the prostate examiner tier depending on exactly like what start you get and whatnot, but overall, I think this is a good average start position for him. Nzinga is next, religious convert. You cannot build holy sites, but you get apostles from theater squares. The reason for that is because of the fact that you can use that to get relics, which give you a huge amount of bonuses, and then not to mention that great works, artifacts, and relics receive 50% more great artists. No, you receive 50% extra great artists, musicians, and merchants, and your palace is a shit ton of great work slots. Again, you get a relic or two early game, that's a wrap. Like you could be like a prince player, and you get a relic on deity, that's an absolute wrap. To go Mvemba, I'm absolutely not going to pronounce that properly. 10 combat strength when defending against ranged attack. A swordsman, so already a good unit, made extremely good because crossbowmen are just going to tickle his prostate more than anything. And then the Banza gives you a huge amount of housing, food, and gold, regardless of appeal. Really good economically, a really good early military unit. Without a religious victory, it is going to be a little tough, especially since you can't necessarily found a religion, or really, can you build holy sites as the Congo? You can't. So if the enemy AI is just getting to a position where he's already converted your cities and is about to win the game, you really can't do too much to stop him, so maybe that's a negative. Overall, I will probably put him above of Ambiorix, I think. Another really strong civ, a little under Abe in my opinion. But yeah. Finally, we get to the first new civ. I think, well, not technically. We did do Cleopatra as well as Abraham Lincoln, but it's been a while since we've gotten a new civ. Nader Shah. 5 combat strength when attacking full health units is a lot more helpful than you would think. Cities not founded by Nader Shah receive 2 faith and 3 gold. You obviously get the Immortals, one of the best unique units in the game. Satrapies, Paradise, we already talked about that with the former Persia. Overall, I think Cyrus's abilities are a little better because movement speed in the early game, especially with swordsmen and a great general, that's like 5 movement speed. My goodness, that brings a tear to my eye with all the genociding you could do with Cyrus. Nader Shah, I think, is a little worse. Again, he's better at taking out units, but when it comes to like full-on war and not only blitzing enemy cities, but a lot of the times in the early game, you're going to have loyalty issues, so using that 5 movement speed to like take a city, take the next city in 3 turns, take the next city in 3 turns, allowing you to avoid rebellions a lot of the time is extremely helpful. Overall, I think just a little bit worse than Cyrus, but not by much. I'll put him right under Cyrus. Of course, I could be wrong. I've only played him like once, so we'll play him again after my inevitable tier list coming up after the final New Frontier Pass, or New Leader Pass, sorry, Force of Habit, gets announced and comes out. But overall, I think he is still an extremely strong civ. Second straight leader, and before I talk about Nzinga Mbande, can we talk about the fact how like the leader portraits seem like a lot more oily for all the new civs than the older ones? Like, I don't know if it's an aesthetic choice or something, but you go ahead, you look at Zetian, Yongle, you go ahead and look at Tokugawa. They look like they're getting ready to, I guess, go on Bang Bros or something. Like, seriously, like, you go ahead and look at regular Suleiman, like the Grand Vizier, you know, he looks fine. Then you go the Magnificent, he looks like he's just oiled up, ready for action. But in any case, Nzinga Mbande, I think it's a little better than the other Congo. Again, you get all the other, like, unique abilities, but cities receive 10% yields if on the same continent as your capital, negative 15% on another continent. So essentially, she goes up to Lady Thick Thighs and slaps her with her even thicker thighs. The 6 tiles is replaced by being on a continent, and considering you're definitely going to have more cities on a continent over the course of the game than you are going to have within 6 tiles of your capital, means you are going to get a huge advantage. Then you have Keita. You can actually found a religion, which is really, really strong, and then you could actually go ahead and get the reliquaries thing, or the one that allows you to, or the one that is, the wonder, excuse me, that gives you martyr promotion. Use that to get a huge amount of relics, give that massive 5 great work slot boost to your capital, and just go to work from there. Again, you're also flexible with your early war potential. You get the Banza for a lot of housing, for all the food you're going to be making, and the 10% extra yields are just the cherry on top of this sundae. Overall, I think she is probably going to go in the Lod He Comin tier. She Comin. Lod She Comin. Well, I guess I'm going to be called Hitler in the comments section of various Reddits and Twitters, so it is what it is, but Lod He Comin, and she is coming overall. I think I'm probably going to put her, I'll put her right above Macedon, a little under J Varmin. I think she's like one of the really best civs in the entire game. Of course, if you spawn in between two continents, and if for some reason the continent you spawn on has like no tiles for some reason, then it's going to be a little bit of a problem. But that's such a rare occurrence, you probably won't have to worry about that. And if you do, hey, restart. I'm not going to tell. Pack of Cutie is next. Domestic trade routes gain 1 food for every mountain tile in the origin city. I have no idea how that works logistically. Like, are you just hunting mountain goats and spreading it throughout the entire world? I mean, you know, goat and rice does taste pretty good, honestly. But, I mean, that must be a lot of food you're exporting. Because think about it. 5 mountain tiles, get 5 food. It's really good for the Pack of Cutie, especially domestically. But logistically, I don't know. Mitya allows citizens to work mountain tiles, so I guess you really are recruiting mountain goats for your endeavors. You get 2 production, 1 when the game reaches the industrial era, and food for terrace farms. Terrace farms are great. They have to be beside a mountain tile, or not have to be, but they get 1 food for each adjacent mountain tile. They get housing, food, get production for each adjacent aqueduct district, 1 if adjacent to fresh water and not an aqueduct, so they don't even need for aqueducts or rivers for that matter, and then you get more food. They are so strong when it comes to food. And the Warcock might actually get me to start building some scout units. I don't know. Especially having just 1 in every city, just so in case someone attacks you, you have like an additional attack per turn when defending. Of course, there's still skirmisher units, so unless you're able to attack twice and then retreat, they're going to essentially get slaughtered when they actually go up against like a man-at-arms or something. And then the Kapang Na is... it's nice and all, but it really isn't necessary unless you have a mountain range obstructing your path. It's fine overall, but you do get extra gold when trade routes go through it, so it's fine overall, I guess. It's nice flavor, but isn't really going to do too much for your game. Again, they get so much food in production that you're going to be one of the top science civs 99% of the time. Overall, I'm going to put him right under Jod Corton in the Lod He Comin tier. Another really strong civ that, again, is probably really underrated in comparison to some of the other more famous civs like Babylon, Byzantium, Portugal, and Babylon for that matter, but he's still strong in his own right. Next civ we have is Pedro II. After recruiting or patronaging a great person, 20% of the great person fund is I'm absolutely just, my neurons are not firing today, making like the Challenger spaceship. What the fuck is wrong with me? You guys could probably read if you want. Overall, one of the best great person generators and buyers. Not only that, but the Amazon gives you massive bonuses and appeal for rainforests, giving you adjacency bonuses to campuses, holy sites, theater squares, any victory type you want, Pedro can get. The Minas Gerais is really strong on an archipelago just because of the fact it's replaced literally 1 era earlier, or you could build it 1 era earlier than most battleships. I didn't just lose neurons while trying to say that. I almost choked on my own sputum again. But after that, you also have the Street Carnival and Copacabana, essentially the same thing. They give you projects essentially that give you various amounts of great person points. Again, I've never found them to be too good for the most part. Campus research grants or industrial zone projects or any other of those specific industrial projects are going to give you more great person points. So unless you want a variety of great people points, then they're probably not the best things to build. Overall, one of the better civilizations in the entire game. I think he's going to go right above Catherine in the prostate examiner tier. Next up, we got Pericles, another really simple civ, 5% culture per city-state you're suzerain of, with the Acropolis. That's more suzerains, because every time you build one, you get an envoy. The hoplites give you a massive bonus in the early game until swordsmen come out, and Plato's Republic an extra wildcard slot. So, again, you could go for an early war with him, and it could be fairly effective, especially if there's no iron for anyone else to build swordsmen. Not only that, but you get a huge amount of culture, and with the Acropolis, you're definitely one of the better culture civs in the game, and an extra wildcard policy slot is just amazing in any civ. That's just really good. Pericles overall, of course, I think is going to go. I don't think he's as good as the others. I'll put him in prostate examiner, because the second you get somebody like Germany in your game, start obliterating city-states, then like that's most of his like really special abilities gone. I think he's a little better than Gorgo, so I'll put him right above her. We got the Russians next coming in hot. You already know where I'm going to put them. Grand Embassy allows you to catch up in science and culture very quickly. Mother Russia gives you production and faith from tundra tiles. You get work ethic along with your pantheon, and then you get a religion. You get that +8 holy site in the tundra. You double that with the policy card to +16. You are going to be producing things so goddamn fast. The Cossacks really good for a cavalry unit, although cavalry units aren't necessarily the best type of unit type to be building in that time. The lava is really, really good though, allowing you to get a religion early on because it's cheaper to build, and then it gives you writer points, artist points, and musician points, depending after you, of course, get a shrine, temple, and worship building, respectively. I remember back when you got the lava and it immediately gave you all 3 of those points without even having to build a shrine. That was fun times. Overall, again, one of the best civs in the entire game, just production-wise, religiously. Definitely in the Lud coming tier. I think I'll put him right under Byzantium just because you actually have to work a little bit to get the great people points, but he is definitely one of the best. He is the best culture civ in the entire game. You will, if you just get shrines and temples, you will be getting every great person in regards to culture every single time without fail. It is just so goddamn easy. Philip is next. I remember when he was quite literally just a poor man's Portugal, but he's moved up. No longer is he sold out Walmart or even Goodwill. Now he's moved up to Sears, Target, all those, I guess, a little bit more advanced stores, if you will. Inquisitors can remove heresy 1 extra time. Absolutely fantastic. If you have to use Inquisitors in a religious game, you've already lost. They eliminate 100% of the presence of other religions, which is still pretty good, but again, you won't use them a lot of the time. Here's the thing, though. 5 extra combat and religious strength against players following other religions. That's really good, especially if you just come in with the Reconquista Batista bomb. It's just absolutely insane. Treasure Fleet's also good, allowing you to get trade routes that get 3 gold, 2 faith, and 1 production, which is tripled between multiple continents, so 9 gold, 6 faith, 3 production, and they also have a spawn bias towards geothermal fissures, which happen in between continents, meaning you settle one city on one continent, another on another, and just like that, you're going to get like 2 food, 9 gold, 3 production, and 6 faith from 1 trade route, which is just disgusting, especially in the early game. And then also cities not on your original capital's continent receive a massive boost. So again, you want to be settling a city on your continent and then work on expanding towards other continents first and foremost. Conquistador, another really strong unit, 10 combat strength when a religious unit is within 1 hex, meaning you go up against somebody who's following, let's say, another religion, then you're going to be getting 15 extra combat strength with the Conquistador, essentially an era and a half ahead of whatever civ you're going up against, which is strong. And then the mission's also really good, lots of faith, production, food, as well as science when adjacent to campus and holy sites. Not only that, but you also get extra loyalty, allowing you to keep cities on other continents. Overall, a really, really strong save. I'm so happy they updated him in the April update. He was like in the baby don't come home tier, like at the end of it. Maybe even if I had a gun to my head and I had to win, I might die. I'm not going to put him in the Lod coming tier. I think he's a little worse than Catherine, a little worse than Genghis. I think he's better than Pericles, honestly, so I'll put him in the prostate examiner tier. In fact, now that I think about it, I think Hungary is actually better than Pericles too. Pathmaker's next, another civ who has really good abilities, but doesn't really have any direction. Alliance types provide shared visibility. That's not too bad. Outgoing trade routes give food, depending on the camper pasture, and gold, depending on the camper pastures, with trade routes sent to your cities. You get 1 trade route capacity and a free trader with pottery. That's really important for the early game. Unclaimed tiles also get gobbled up. I mean, that's nice, but not really the best thing in the world if your trader moves there. The Miki Wap is really good, honestly, gives you production, housing, gold, as well as food for bonus resources, and then of course extra resources including housing as you advance through the trees. Must be placed adjacent to a bonus or luxury resource. That's a little bit, I guess, less good, but there are so many bonus and luxuries in most games that won't be too much of a problem. The Okita Claw is actually a really good unit, as strong as the warrior, and a free promotion. Like, the thing with scouts is, in my opinion, like, you have 3 movement speed versus a warrior with 2 movement speed. Now that might be good if you actually got to move 3 tiles instead of like 2 every turn, but again, if you move on a plains tile, it's not like Civ 5 where you could go on a plains tile and then go up a hill. I love scouts in Civ 5. If you go on a plains tile and then you try to cross a river, the scout's gonna have the same movement speed as a warrior. If you cross a river or go up on a hill, the scout's gonna have the same movement speed as a warrior. So most of the time, like 40% of the time, your scout's gonna move just as fast as a warrior unless you're on like open terrain. The Okinaklaw is different because with the promotion, you get the first promotion which gives you movement speed on hills or forests, and that actually gives you, you know, extra movement speed to the point where I'd recommend building scouts or Okinaklaws, at least again, in my opinion. Overall, he should probably go in the God tier just for getting me to build scouts in the first place, but in all honesty, he doesn't have any abilities towards like a victory type. Like if you go Russia, you're going to win the game a lot easier than with the Okinaklaws. Same thing with Pedro, same thing with Kublai Khan. Like, I think he's a little worse than Mali in the Baby Don't Come Home tier, maybe worse than Montezuma. Again, it really does depend on, I guess, the strategy you're going for, but yeah, he's in the Baby Don't Come Home tier. Qin Shi Huang is next, the Mandate of Heaven. When you build a wonder, you can spell builder charges. That's really good, especially in the early game with like loads of wonders like the Oracle, the Pyramids, the Hanging Gardens, the Great Shower. All of it is just really good when you can essentially guarantee them with Qin Shi Huang. And it really isn't the hardest thing in the world to get like 90 or even every wonder in the ancient and classical era. It's just such a good ability. Dynastic Cycle gives you extra Eureka and Inspiration bonus, and this is good. You get a Eureka and Inspiration for every wonder when you build it, depending on the era it's built. So in the early game, you can get pretty much every ancient and classical era civic and Eureka pretty much for free, which is really strong, giving you essentially twice as much science than you would normally have. The Crouching Tiger is still dog shit. Great Wall is really good since you are going to be going for a culture game. And the thing is, with the ancient and classical era wonders, you get more tourism throughout the entire game. So you add that into the Great Wall, they are a really strong tourism civ. Overall, I would probably put him in the Prostate Examiner tier. I think he's better than Pericles for sure. And now that I think about it, honestly, Cyrus is probably, like, I think I rated Pericles a little too high. Gorgo's definitely better than him. Nader Shah's probably better just because Persia's abilities are so good. I think he's better than Lady Thick Thighs. Abraham Lincoln, now that I think about it, is probably better than Lady Thick Thighs. But overall, again, don't take, I guess, the rating. I'm going in as gospel or whatever. Like, Pericles is going to be worse, could be worse than even Ambiorix, depending on the start, I suppose. This is just meant to be the relative power, I guess. Don't like anime Kenny beat Goku, though, in the comments or anything. Unless you want to, of course. There's just more views and money for me. After that, we get Robert Baratheon. I mean, come on, look at that. The armor is too small for his damn body. I still can't, like... Whatever the case may be, I'm just going to get into like a 20-minute rant about how he just looks like funny in that armor. But 36 stratagems, melee units receive the Convert Barbarians action to every adjacent barbarian, not just one. So again, I apologize, wasn't very familiar with your game. Along with all the other abilities, that's kind of the problem. I mean, barbarians aren't going to be a threat in the early game. We have Dynastic Cycle, Crouching Tiger, Great Wall, lots of really good cultural things, but you're not going to be getting too many Eurekas and Inspirations, you know, without being able to build wonders, unless you want to actually hard produce a lot of wonders, which isn't optimal in most games. Great Wall is good, but you're not going to be going for a culture game half the time. You might be talking about, well, if he's a domination civ using his ability to get a huge amount of barbarians under his banner, the Crouching Tiger is perfect for him. Perfect cannon fodder maybe, and maybe to get some era score, because again, with one range, unless you're going up against somebody who's like an era behind you, he's just going to die in the next turn, and it's just not worth it in most cases. Overall, I think I'll still probably put him, okay, well, he's not on the tier list for now, but I'd probably put him at the end of the Baby Don't Come Home tier under Coupe. Again, unless you spawn like near a huge amount of barbarians in the early game, then he'd definitely go up to Prostate Examiner, but for most games, he really isn't going to be as good as you would think. Ramses is next. Now about Ramses, culture equal to 15% of the construction cost when building buildings and 30% with wonders. With your Itaru unique ability, you're going to be getting a huge amount of culture for that. The Sphinx is, I think, a little better with Ramses just because you already get so much culture that just going full on the culture tree, getting like industrial era culture in like the Renaissance era, or even like modern era culture in the Renaissance era on the civic tree, I guess if that makes sense, is really good. Mariani Chariot Archer, again, is a lot better than I thought. but if you have production. That's always been the thing with it. If you have a huge amount of production like I did in my Ramses video, go check it out. It was made like a couple weeks ago. Then, again, they're probably one of the best unique units in the game. It's crossbows in the ancient era, but again, they're so goddamn expensive. That's always the problem with them. With this, I would recommend going to war early game if you have culture. If you don't have, or production, if you don't have production, then just go ahead and start like building up your empire, getting buildings, getting a huge amount of wonders when you can, just blitzing through the culture tree, getting maybe even nationalism for armies, and then using that as a domination advantage, just going ahead and just winning a culture game by like turn 200 or something. Overall, if I had him here, I'd put him in the probably prostate examiner tier. I still think Catherine's a better culture civ than he is, and I think Genghis is better. I think he's better than Spain. I'll put him ahead of Spain, but under the other two. He's still a really strong civ, though. Next civ is Scotland. Robert the Bruce Bannock Burn, might as well be called Bancuck, is now burned. I don't know where I was going with that, but I saw the opportunity and took it. War of Liberation after gaining defensive tactics, double production, and 2 movement speed for 10 turns. Now, I personally don't have too much luck with Wars of Liberation, but again, if you can get that, that is extremely strong. Scottish Enlightenment is where it is at, though. 5% science, 5% production. Happy cities generate great scientists, great engineer points, and with the golf course giving you extra amenities, ecstatic cities receiving double these amounts, you can get a massive amount of science and production, everything you need for a science victory as Scotland. The Highlanders, a ranger unit, 5 combat bonus when fighting in hill and forest terrain, even scout diehards, right? They can take a few minutes to take their mouth off Scott Cock and said, you know, even the ranger, the Highlander, not that good of a unit overall. So again, despite that, he still is an extremely strong civ. If you can get a huge amount of amenities, especially one of the only civs I'd recommend, you know, maybe checking the population a little bit. There's no fucking way they don't have Scotland. How do you not have Scotland on this tier list? Okay, well, I didn't make the tier list, so I can't call myself a monkey. There he is. I might be the monkey overall. I am just absolutely stupid. Overall, he's in the prostate examiner tier. I'll put him right ahead of Pedro, a really strong civ. In fact, I'd put him in the Lud coming tier if he had like a decent unique unit. Next civ's gonna be Sultan Saladin. You are calling him Sultan or you're calling him Daddy. Those are your only 2 options. Double flanking and support bonuses. Listen, all right? You get 2 combat strength from flanking. If you have 1 extra unit flanking, that is 4 extra combat strength. If you have 2, that is now 8 extra combat strength. If you're able to have 4 units surrounding a unit, that is 6. Okay, I'm actually an idiot. Hold on, 6. That is 12 extra combat. I've done this. I think I got like 100 combat strength on a horseman one time. A horseman! Like, imagine if like during Operation Iraqi Freedom or something, M1 Abrams were driving through Iraq and all of a sudden Saladin comes out of nowhere leading a cavalry charge and absolutely destroys the Abrams tank. That is exactly what happens in Civ. Again, historically, I don't think Saladin would probably be able to successfully lead a cavalry charge against M1 Abrams. That's just me, though. I'm open for debate. And then you also have the Last Prophet giving you a free religion, science for each foreign city following Arabia's religion, the Mamluk, another really strong unit that can actually be used now, because with the flanking bonuses and the fact you heal at the end of every turn, means you can go a little more gung-ho when attacking enemy units, especially if you beeline it. And then the Madrasa gives you faith equal to adjacency bonus of the campus district. I'm mispronouncing everything today, but overall, that another really strong civ. I don't think he's in the Ladhi coming tier. I think I'm gonna put him in the Ladhi coming tier because, again, I've only played like 1 or 2 games with him. I forget. So I probably have to play at least 2 more, which I'll do before the next tier list. I think from what I've seen from him, he's definitely under a Minotaur and maybe even under John Curtin, but he's just, the flanking bonus is so goddamn strong. And I think the other Saladin is probably going to be like around 8 tier as well. Righteousness of the Faith, the worship building is like extremely, okay, there's a mosquito. I'm gonna snipe it. I missed. He's on my keyboard. He's mocking me. You're not making that of this alive, mosquito. All right, here's the plan, actually. Hold on. I don't know what to do with the mosquito. He's on my keyboard. If I hit something, I'm afraid it'll stop recording. He's not moving off. My pinky is literally touching his wing, and he's not moving. All right, mosquito genocide aside, or I guess that would be homicide in that case. The worship building is cheaper and gives you an extra 10% science and culture to the output of your cities. He's a much better science and culture civ. Again, the flanking bonus is just way too goddamn strong, especially if you know what you're doing. Which, again, just like make sure your units are near each other. It's really not that hard of a concept. It's definitely one you easily forget when you're like autopiloting with Sultan Saladin. But again, if you're playing Saladin, I'm fairly certain that you're going to be focusing a lot more on the flanking bonuses than not. This one gets science and culture, which overall is still really strong. He's definitely in the top of prostate examiner tier. I think I'll put him right under Genghis. I still think Genghis is better. Actually, I'd probably put Genghis ahead of Catherine, if I'm being honest. I put Genghis ahead of Catherine, but she's definitely better than Grand Vizier Saladin. Something like that I think is a really good thing. Again, let me know down below in the comments. I'm open to debate. The tier list literally changes like every time I come. So much variety when playing this game, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Next up, we got Sion Diok. Korea. Governors give you 3% culture and 3% science for each promotion they have, including their first. 3 kingdoms. Mines give you science for every adjacent Siawan, which is a campus that can only be built on hills, and you may have to make sure that you don't have any other districts beside it. Now, farms give 1 food for every adjacent Siawan, meaning you put a Siawan, surround it with mines and farms, you're golden. The Huaca's really good because it replaces the field cannon. It can't move and attack on the same turn, but it has high ranged combat strength and 2 range, so you keep it in a city, you attack units coming in, you're unstoppable. Definitely one of the better science civs in the entire game. The +4 Siawan bonus as well pretty much guarantees, as long as you don't have districts beside them, which isn't too hard to ignore, you're always going to be getting the rationalism policy card, giving your cities 50% extra science, which is so huge and what makes the Siawan a lot better than it already is. Best science civ in the game, no question about it, especially with your focus on mines giving you production. I'll put her right under Peter because I still think Russia's just too broken in a culture game. Byzantium's too broken in a religious game, and a domination game, excuse me, and an archipelago. Portugal's disgusting, and then Babylon is quite literally the one walking around with the TheCivLifeR subscriber-induced penis. Like and subscribe, of course, for that. And yeah, definitely these guys are the top 5 civs. Like, they're the top 5 civs, and then there should be another tier list, and then you have the Lodi coming tier. That's, you know what, I think I'm actually going to do that. I'll put them all in the God tier, and then we'll go ahead and actually add row above, and then we're going to call this row, right, we're going to call this new road, we're going to call this the Babylon tier. Babylon, I guess skip the O, I guess, with my illiterate ass, but Babylon is going to get on the top of that. The others, I think I'll probably call this something more creative. Let's call this the restart. We'll keep it restart every time you see these, and then you can fill in the blanks at the end. But overall, these guys are definitely a cut above the others, Sion Diok included. Vietnam could be up there. I still think she's like a little bit below these guys, but overall, Sion Diok, who I was talking about, is extremely strong. And next up, we got Shaka. Corps and armies formed earlier and extra combat strength, and with the Akanda, you can build them outright a lot earlier than usual. The Impi's really good, even though it replaces a pike-type unit. It's got more flanking bonuses, low cost, low maintenance, and gets experience a lot faster, allowing you to get thrust, which helps you against melee units. Easy Bongo as well gives you loyalty bonuses, which is really important in a domination game. Definitely goes unsung a lot of the time, especially on the higher difficulties when the AI gets golden ages. Again, you capture a city, you get a free core army. That's really good. So overall, definitely in the Lodi coming tier. I'll probably put him right above Saladin. I still think Amenator's a lot better than him, so we'll keep it like that, but definitely one of the better civs in the game. Next up, after that, we got Simon Okay, I completely forgot Gran Colombia was a thing in this game. Commandante Generals, stacking bonuses with actual great generals. You get 1 movement speed to all units. Promoting a unit doesn't end that unit's turn. The Llanero is extremely strong, getting 2 combat strength for every adjacent Llanero, so pretty much Saladin, Sultan, but a lot more reliable because it's not just flanking bonuses, it's every Llanero beside another Llanero, and it's cheaper, and it fully heals when a Commandante General activates its ability. So you save up 3 to 4 Commandante Generals, get the Llanero, and then you have a massive army, which in a crisis you can pop a Commandante General to not only get their unique ability, but to fully heal your Llanero. And the Hacienda is probably the best district in the game, giving you gold, production, housing, food for every 2 adjacent plantations, increase to every plantation and replaceable parts, and 1 production for every 2 adjacent haciendas, and you can literally build them beside each other and everywhere, not having a restriction, making them, in my opinion, the best improvement in the game. One of the best unique units, one of the best unique generals, one of the best civ abilities, and a really strong leader ability. Overall, I think he's a little under the other civs. Again, you have to take into account that before the April update, he was a lot stronger now that I think. I forget what they changed in the April update, but he was definitely a lot stronger at that point. I completely forget why. Let me know down below in the comments. But he's still probably one of the best domination civs in the game. The only problem is he doesn't really have an answer for walls until the mid to late game because you want to build cavalry. And if your early game gets stopped by walls, you'll either have to build catapults, hopefully use ranged units if the enemy doesn't have like a strong ranged unit in the city and the walls are weak. That's probably why I'd put him right above Vietnam in the lot heat commentary. That's his only weakness. If the enemy builds walls, you could probably stop him. But yeah, he's still one of the better civs in the game. I think he used to give 2 movement speed to all units. Yeah, that would definitely justify a, you know, extra tier in the restart every time you see these. So I'll cut under the others, but still one of the best civs in the entire game. We get both Suleimans next. Now, Grand Vizier, in my opinion, the Kanuni is a lot better than the other because number 1, you get Ibrahim. You don't get Ibrahim here. You get the Janissary. You don't get the Janissary here. So his leader ability would have to be the equivalent of literally the best unique unit in the entire game, and literally one of the best leader abilities in the entire game, and extra governor titles, which it isn't, alright? Muhtasim Suleiman, I'm not Turkish, but I probably said that right. The drip is exquisite, alright? It looks like he's like a Yu-Gi-Oh monster about to summon Exodia or something with his like green emeralds or something, so he definitely spent most of his budget on looking as drippy as possible. Definitely would get an S tier on the drip tier list, but again, when it comes to skill-wise in an actual game, he really just isn't that good in comparison to the other Suleiman. This Suleiman Magnificent gives you 15% science and culture when in a golden or heroic age, and 4 extra combat strength when not against civs who are also not in a golden age. So again, it's really good when you're in a golden age, but at best you're going to be in a golden age or heroic age half the time. You know what I mean? So you get a leader ability half the time. The other half the time you get 4 combat strength, which is good, but the Janissary and Ibrahim and extra governor titles are a lot better than just getting 4 combat strength at base. You still get the Great Turkish Bombard. The Barbary Corsair is good on a, I guess, ocean type of game, especially a true start location Mediterranean map. Grand Bazaar is one of the best unique buildings in the game overall, giving you extra amenities for luxuries. Overall, what I would say is regular Suleiman gets S tier. In fact, I lied. There are 6 civs in the restart every time you see these. I think he's better than Korea, honestly. It's just the Janissary is so good. The Janissary is so good. It is stronger than the Musketmen, free promotion, cheaper than the Musketmen, cheaper to upgrade with gold as well, and gets a free promotion. The only thing is you lose population when you hard build these guys, but the thing is you can overcome that easily. Build man-at-arms and upgrade them into Janissaries when you can. You don't lose any population, so they don't even have a debuff. They have 5 extra combat strength, free promotion, cheaper to build. There is no reason that these guys aren't the best unique unit in the entire game, in my opinion. The Togma, I would completely understand if you think the Togma is a little better. My opinion, it is the Janissary. So again, he is going in the top tier. The other Suleiman, I think, probably goes in the high prostate examiner tier, probably under, I'll put him at the top, honestly. It's still really strong civ because Ottomans have strong abilities, and his leader ability is good if you get a golden age, but, you know, again, at best you're going to have that about half the time. Sundiata Keita is next. It costs 20% less gold to recruit great people, and markets get extra great writing slots, which also give you 4 gold and 2 production with great writing. Again, he's Mali. He has the same exact problem with Mali. The thing is, though, Mansa Musa gets trade routes and extra gold with trade routes. Sahel merchants allows you to get more money in the early game, especially when settling mostly desert-only cities, even if they are just domestic trade. No, they're only international trade routes. But again, his Sogalan ability is better in the mid to late game if this Mansa Musa doesn't get too many golden ages, but in the early game it's definitely Mansa Musa, and with such a weak early game as Mali in general, with your complete lack of production until you get Sugarbuzz, he's definitely worse than the actual Mali. By how much? I'd probably put him right under Gatarja in my opinion. Baby, don't come home, the kids don't miss you. Tomorrow's next. Combat victories give faith equal to half the combat strength. By the time you find a barbarian encampment, most people are already going to have pantheons, so it doesn't really help you get religious settlements or the good ones in the early game. Each envoy you send to a city-state of your majority religion counts as 2 envoys. It's not bad overall for a diplomatic game. Strength and unity, when making dedications at the start of a golden or heroic age, you receive the normal age bonus. Again, you have to get a golden age first, which is a lot easier said than done. Production towards defensive buildings is fine, I guess. The thing is, the walls and the medieval walls aren't really that good for the most part. And then once you get to the Sikh, the Renaissance walls, essentially, even though it is 50% cheaper, I guess, to build these walls, and it has a lower production cost against Renaissance walls, you're getting 3 tourism after research and conservation, and 4 faith when in a golden age, and 4 faith, and when in a golden age, the tourism and faith are doubled. So you could get a string of golden ages. He's definitely in the B or A tier. Again, nothing too crazy, but the problem is you are going to have to get a golden age. A lot of other civs have much better and more reliable ways of getting tourism, much better and more reliable ways of using faith. And again, without any bonuses towards a religion, you're really going to have to go hard in the early game to get a religion, leaving you open to enemy attacks. And you do have cheaper walls to help with that, but the thing is, if you go astrology, masonry is on the other side. And the thing is, astrology and masonry don't necessarily help your early game too much, because aside from mining, most of the technologies aren't going to be optimal. Like, again, you want pottery in the early game, you want irrigation, you want writing, mining, again, you want those optimal technologies in the early game. Tomorrow, you sort of have to skip that in order to found a religion, so a lot worse than normal. The Kevstar is really good now that you can upgrade into it instead of having to hard build it. 7 combat strength and fighting in hill terrain on an already really good unit is good, and then no movement penalty in hill terrain is really good as well. She's not as bad as she used to be. She used to be by far the worst in the entire game. Right now, though, I would probably put her under Coupe and the baby don't come home, the kids don't miss you tier. The Teddies are going to be next. We already talked about America's abilities. Antiquities and Parks is incredible, giving you science and culture with breathtaking tiles near mountains or wonders and woods. And early game, you are going to have the most science and culture even on deity. I think that's alone puts him right above Gran Colombia in the lot he come in tier. I think overall he isn't as good as the top 6 civs. He might be, depending on the game. He's on the edge for sure, so take with that what you will. And then with the other Teddy, again, 5 combat strength on the home continent is good with barbarians and in the early game against other civs. Trade routes to cities, envoys sent to trade routes. Envoys sent to city-states with the trade route count as 2 envoys, and you gain the Rough Rider. What does that do? Well, it replaces the Corsairs, and you get culture from kills on their capitals' continents. 10 combat strength and fighting on hills, and a lower maintenance cost. It's not a bad unique unit. Again, the culture helps with the film studio, but it isn't going to be anything crazy unless you go to war with someone, and then again, you have to get them to attack your continent, which kind of goes against using Roosevelt Corollary. Like, the way I like to do it, and the optimal way, in my opinion, is use that to secure your continent in the early to mid game. You know, that 5 extra combat strength is insanely strong, and then with that, you're going to essentially push your way through to a victory. But if you let other civs settle your continent, you're reducing the amount of cities you could easily get with your extra combat strength. And then the Rough Rider is, again, you're going to have to actually use him on your continent's tiles in order to get the culture. So a lot of the times you're not even going to get that culture. Founding Fathers is still really good. Film Studios is still really good. P-51 Mustang is still really bad. So overall, I'd put him in the baby don't come home tier in the, I'd say under Mansa Musa. New Civ Tokugawa is next. International trade routes receive a penalty to yields and tourism, but domestic trade routes give you a lot more for every specialty district at the city. That's really good in the early game. Mid to late game, it completely falls off because trade routes are mainly used to get yields internationally as well as tourism bonuses. But again, just having that big of an advantage in the early game is really strong for starting out. And then cities within 6 tiles of your capital are always loyal, incredibly strong. And after researching flight, 1 tourism for every district. I don't think that's going to make up for the 25% negative yield to districts, because again, let's say you have 3 districts a city and 20 cities even. It's like 60 tourism. That is not equivalent to the 25% of tourism you are going to lose with international trade routes. Meiji Restoration gives you more yields with districts when they're beside each other. Samurai is extremely strong, especially for just taking out the few cities the AI was able to settle within 6 tiles of your capital. Electronic factories, another really strong building overall, giving you culture, as well as the production of a regular factory. Overall, in the early game, is a lot stronger, but in the late game is a lot weaker, so it really depends on how you snowball in the early game. I think overall he's still probably Prostate Examiner. I don't think he's at the top though. I think he's like right under Saladin in my opinion, maybe even Spain and Matthias. Again, one of the better civs, no doubt. I've only played him once. Again, my opinions can change, so let me know if I'm missing out like a super OP and easy-to-use strategy with him. The next leader is going to be Julius Caesar. I still haven't gotten him in-game. That's probably why I skipped him from J. We'll talk about him right now real quick. He is... let's just read the abilities. 200 gold after conquering a city for the first time, 100 gold after destroying a barbarian outpost. Both become 500 after receiving steel. And then he, of course, also has the Rome's unique ability, which will go down to Trajan's for. All roads lead to Rome, Legion, and Bath. Legion is good, but after the classical era, it's not going to be used, of course. All roads lead to Rome isn't bad. You don't get the free monument, and instead the Vini Vidi Vici might as well be called I Came, I Saw, and I fucking flopped, because what the hell is this? You get 200 gold after conquering a city for the first time. I mean, fantastic. You conquer 3 cities and you're gonna get a legion, which isn't bad per se, but it could be so much better. Gold is the one yield in this game. Really doesn't matter too much after the early game, and if you conquer 3 cities, you probably aren't going to need an extra legion. Of course, you could buy buildings with it, but that's like every 2 cities and 1 barbarian encampment is, of course, going to be 1 library, for example, or 1 arena or amphitheater. Again, I've still never played him. I have to link my 2K account, and I really don't want to have to do that. I will do it. We will definitely play a Julius Caesar game, maybe even on stream if I get to streaming again. But you also get 500 gold after researching steel. By the time you research steel, this ability is not even going to be needed. Like, by the time you research steel, you already have more than enough gold coming in that you really aren't going to be needing that extra leader ability. Again, the Legion's good, the Bath is good, all roads lead to Rome is good, so he isn't like a bad civ overall. The thing is, I think, I don't know if I'll put him at the end of Prostate Examiner tier. I still haven't played him, so I'll put him right smack dab in the middle. Tamiris is next. Combat strength when attacking wounded units, and you heal when you eliminate a unit. You get 2 for the price of 1 Black Friday deal with building light cavalry units. Suck a horse archer isn't that good. It's only good when you want to soften up a unit for your other units to get the extra combat strength bonus again, so it isn't completely useless. With its extra movement speed, it is not like that bad. It's not Crouching Tiger bad. The Kurgan is decent, I guess. You get faith, gold, faith from every pasture tile, tourism after researching fight. You're not going to be going for a tourism game with the Kurgans, and you're not going to be building them in the early game because you're going to be focusing on military. You're really going to start building these in the mid game where faith doesn't become a problem, and you want to use gold on tiles you don't want to build farms on. So it's like a mid-tier unique building. Overall, she's still S tier because her other abilities are so damn strong militarily. In my opinion, she's a little bit worse of a Gran Colombia. She's better in the early game than Gran Colombia. The problem is that in the mid to late game, once they get the Llaneros, the Comandante Generals, more great generals, they become a lot better than Scythia. Trajan is next. We talk about the other really good abilities. Legion's really good. All roads leads to Rome, pretty good. Bath is good. The thing is, you start with a free monument in every city, which is a massive boost to culture, getting political philosophy earlier, getting even stronger legions in the early game, as well as being able to get military tradition for flanking bonuses, as well as getting the extra science bonus for building campuses or the adjacency bonuses, which is really good if you have a few decent campuses. Overall, Trajan, again, one of the best civs in the game. A really simple civ, but a really strong civ. The free monuments pushes him from like Prostate Examiner tier all the way up to, I'd say, a little worse than Jaya Varman. Of course, with the legions, if you can get iron, if you can get an early war, they immediately become one of the best civs in the game, which is why he's in the top of the line. He come in tier. Victoria is next, and with her ability Pax Britannica, you get a free melee unit and trade route capacity every time you settle on other continents. Constructing a Royal Navy dockyard grants you a copy of the strongest naval unit you can build, which is really good. And then the red coat gives you 10 combat strength and fighting on a continent other than your own, and replaces the line infantry. The Royal Navy dockyard's good. Workshop of the World is a lot better on this Victoria because you're going to want production to build military units. Again, on an archipelago, she's in the Lodhi Common tier. On any other map type, she's in the high baby don't come home, the kids don't miss you tier. I'll put her right above Julius Caesar. Like, she's not bad overall. The problem is that, again, well, listen, the thing with Portugal, again, is that we said in this tier list we are going to have it so that every civ is going to be using the settings that are best made for them. So yes, I'm going to put her at the top of Prostate Examiner tier. Really, really strong on an archipelago map, just with the redcoats getting massive extra combat bonuses, fighting like infantry. Sea Dog is really good, allowing you to capture enemy units. Royal Navy Dockyard giving you a huge amount of money and boats to fund your economy. And then Pax Britannica gives you a massive amount of trade routes. Definitely one of the stronger civs in the entire game. I think I rated her like super poorly last time. I don't know why. On an archipelago map especially, she is one of the better civs in the game. Canada is next. With the last Best West, you are a much better tundra and snow city settler than Russia after the medieval era. Before that, Russia just trounces you in the tundra with their production faith, as well as being able to make use of the work ethic policy really early on. But again, it isn't a competition necessarily. For Faces of Peace, you can't declare surprise wars, but the AI is too stupid to declare surprise wars against you, so essentially you can't be declared war on, allowing you to spend a little less on the military than usual. For every 100 tourism, you get 1 Diplo favor. Again, even 1,000 tourism, that's like 10 extra Diplo favor per turn. That isn't anything that's going to break the game, but it's still really good. Double Diplo favor from completing an emergency or scored competition. That is a lot better because that's a huge amount of Diplo favor if you do go towards emergencies. The ice hockey rink, again, it can be built once per city, and if you build it near stadiums and entertainment complexes, it gets 4 culture, which is huge. It can be built on snow, tundra, snow and snow hills tiles. Again, it's kind of restrictive, so if you want to settle like non-tundra or snow tiles, then it's going to be a little weaker to appeal. It's still a really strong culture civ. The Mountie is just, you buy it to build national parks, that's it. Overall, I'm putting him right above Tomorrow and the Baby Don't Come Home tier. A good culture civ, but you can't declare war early on. That kind of goes against my strategies. But even ignoring that strategy, the ice hockey rink is decent. Early game's going to be a little bit of a struggle because, again, you have to wait till you get civil engineering to build farms on tundra. And if you don't do that and settle other non-tundra cities, then you are going to have to scramble to settle those cities once you do get the farms, meaning the ice hockey rinks are going to be a little less valuable than normal, I guess. Again, not by too much. I think I might have actually underrated them a little bit. I'll put them right above Pack a Cutie, I think. They're like a mid-tier civ, a little bit below average maybe, but still not that bad. 3 civs left. Next up is Wilhelmina. Trade routes to your own cities provide loyalty. That's good if you captured a city or you're in a dark age and someone's in a golden age. Trade routes to foreign cities provide you with 2 culture. The problem is that the other civs don't necessarily get a bonus. Oh, I didn't read that. Trade routes to or from foreign cities. So yes, you can essentially guarantee a big amount of culture from trade routes. Grot Rivieren, definitely mispronounced that, excuse me. Major adjacency bonuses for campuses, theater squares, and industrial zones if next to a river. Culture bomb adjacent towns when completing a harbor. Production towards dam districts and flood barriers, extremely good. You will have some of the best industrial zones in the game because you can build dams, which are really expensive a lot faster. And then you also get the adjacency bonus from being next to a river, which you probably are going to have most of your industrial zones, as well as getting just much better campuses and theater squares as well. Their boat is pretty good. Again, when attacking defensible districts on an archipelago, it's a really strong unit, but on an archipelago, it's going to make your other abilities a little less because there's a lot more water than land tiles on those maps. And then the polder is really good, allowing you to turn water into like land tiles, which is really good. And 1 food production housing, extra food if near a polder, additional production golden food as you advance through the tree. It becomes really strong in the mid to late game. The only thing is it increases movement cost of the tile to 3. Not the worst thing in the world, but something you do want to talk about. Their civilization ability alone is going to put them in the A tier. Their other abilities are also really strong, so they're definitely going in the high prostate examiner tier right above Victoria. For some reason, I completely forgot to talk about Hojo Tokimune. Essentially same as Japan, except with Divine Wind. You also get combat strength on coast as well as land tiles adjacent to the coast, which is pretty good when you're trying to defend in the early game, especially on, again, an archipelago map. After that, encampments, holy sites, and theater squares are half cost, and you don't receive damage from hurricanes. That's just some flavor. Civs that are at war with Japan receive double unit damage from hurricanes. Again, flavor. Japan's abilities are already really strong. Divine Wind giving you cheaper theater squares and holy sites puts you as one of the better culture civs and religious civs in the entire game. Overall, I'll put them right above Qin Shi Huang when it comes to the prostate examiner tier. The other thing is you have to think about the Meiji restoration. The additional standard adjacency bonus is really good, so I think I'll put them right above Wilhelmina, and then Tokugawa, I think I put him right under Pedro. I guess that looks, again, it doesn't really matter. Everyone in the prostate examiner tier is around the same as each other. Except for Julius Caesar, I haven't played him till this point. Also, I already did Christina, but I completely forgot to put her on the tier list. I couldn't find her on the tier list last time. Again, go back to the last video where I talked about Christina. I'm not necessarily going to put her anywhere. I think I put her in the A tier somewhere, so I'll just put her right above Caesar and prostate examiner, I guess, although I could be wrong. Finally, we have the two Chinese civs. First up, Wu Zetian. All offensive spies operate at one level higher. Whenever an offensive spy mission is successful, you gain half the culture and science of targeted city earned that turn. Receive a free spy after discovering defensive tactics, which is nice. How much science can a city make? Like, if you get the AI to build like a really strong science and cultural hub, which isn't too hard, like if a city makes 50 science and culture, you get like 25 science every, like, let's say 5 to 7 turns, which is like 5 science a turn. Even if the city has 100 science and culture, that's still only like on average 10 science a turn, of course assuming that you don't get caught and you actually succeed with your missions. The free spy is good. Again, the problem being that dynastic cycles is a lot weaker than normal. Crouching Tiger, if they made the, the Chuko Nu as in Civ 5, that would be really, really good instead of the Crouching Tiger. The Great Wall is fine. I mean, problem is her leader ability, Manual of Entrapment, sort of, it's entrapment, of course, no doubt about it, making you think she's good, you get into the game, and then all of a sudden you realize she's good. Lots of suboptimal abilities that don't really work towards each other. Overall, I'd probably put her with Black Queen Catherine, like right below probably, because Black Queen Catherine at least has, like, the, Guard Imperial, as well as the other leader abilities or civ abilities towards building wonders. But again, this Wu Zetian just, in my opinion, doesn't really work too well. I still haven't played her yet, so again, could be wrong. But I think her leader ability really is just not that good. Like, at best, you are going to be getting, I guess with 5 spies, you're now getting, like, at most 50 extra science and culture per turn, which in the mid to late game really isn't that much, all things considered. Not a terrible civ, but could be a lot better. The last civ is Yongle. All cities receive projects where they convert 50% of their production into food, faith, or gold, which is really, really strong. Cities with 10 or more population receive a massive amount of yields for each pop in the city. So 20 gold, 10 science, 10 culture. You get 10 cities, that's an extra 100 culture, 100 science. The second you get 10 population, which should be done by like mid-industrial era, I think happened to me last time I played Yongle. Again, his other abilities don't really work too well with them. Dynastic Cycle, you don't have bonuses towards building wonders, so it's a good ability, but not too great. Crouching Tiger is terrible. Great Wall doesn't really help you too much in this instance, since he's much more of a, I guess, science gold type civ than even his culture. Like, he gets bonuses to culture, but not to tourism. Well, I guess the Great Wall does give you tourism, so there's that. Overall, a really, really strong civ, I'd say. His abilities mesh a little bit better than Wu Zetian, but with his Legia ability being really good, and I did make a mistake last time. Like, you don't have to finish the project to get that. You get the yields every turn you do the project. So if you have 20 production, you get like 10 gold, 10 food, 10 faith, and 20 gold per turn just by working that project, which is, again, really, really good. If I had to put him, he's in the Lodi coming tier. I'll put him right above Trajan, in my opinion. And yeah, it's going to be the tier list. Again, you want to be my editor for the second channel, I'll leave the email and the link to the second channel down below in the pinned comment. Send me your work, of course. I want to hire an experienced editor. And like and subscribe if you do enjoy, and let me know your opinions on this list down below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.